My Comicchatauthority. We're here today with Marcus Roberts, the creator of The Protector. How you doing, Marcus?
Doing good. How about yourself, Cody?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How's the weather where you at?
Well, I'm currently in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm originally from Florida. I live in Florida, but I'm here visiting in Savannah, and actually having a nice fall weather. The days are warm and the nights are cold, so nothing like Florida, though.
Right, it's hot all the time here.
Oh yeah.
So, tell us, how did you get into comic books?
Well, I actually have been reading comic books all my life. I'm big oh no big secret, I'm 55 years old. So I started reading like the war comic books and reading the westerns, and
Mm.
it just always stuck with me. I grew up into it, but then you know life happens and responsibility happens, and I kind of drifted away, only being able to keep up here and there. But I started doing freelance stuff for the World of Black Heroes, and this was probably around 2012. And just talking with the different independent comic book creators, being exposed to all the comic books again, it reignited the passion. And one of the guys said, "Well, hey, you ever thought about doing your own comic book?" And having this long history with it, I actually had thought about doing it, but just didn't really know how to get started. So asking questions here and there and finding out what I needed to do. And boom, at the age of 53, I was publishing my first comic book.
Right. So, is The Protector your very first one ever?
It is my very first comic book that I actually created, characters that I created, book that I published. I started writing here and there in like ICC, for example, the ICC group. We used to do comic books back in the day, so I started doing a couple of pages in those books and got the opportunity to write even more pages and more books from Jennifer Rash Wyatt and her Dream Angel series,
Mm.
which was a good experience for me. And then it just kind of took off from there. I did more background stuff than you know people actually seeing me and saying, "Hey, that's Marcus doing it." But then when I dropped my comic book, it pushed me to the forefront, and it opened up different doors. I currently write for Mississippi Zombie, which is published by Caliber Comics through Second Sight Publishing. Uh, Second Sight Publishing presents Harvest of Horror, and I kind of like writing the short stories. I like writing horror, and I like writing horror short stories. So those anthologies fit. And I have a couple other projects that I've worked on that are due to be released next year from different independent creators who are looking to break into business.
All right, nice. And The Protector's on Kickstarter now? Like right now?
Yes, yes. Right now we're doing the Kickstarter for Volume 2 of the Protector. The first issue, which we call Volume 1, actually, as I said, nominated for a Glyph Comic Award on last year, the Rising Star Award. And with issue 2 or Volume 2, we are continuing the story and going deeper into the history and mythology of the character.
All right, could you give us a quick breakdown of the character and what's the story about?
Well, the character, Dunbar is his name. And his backstory goes he was one of the greatest warriors of the village. And this was during a time when the villagers no longer went to war, but instead they chose a representative, the village champion, to fight in their stead. And that's how they settled disputes.
Hmm.
But with Dunbar, he was tricked by his water bearer and believing that his opponent was talking bad about him, and he killed his opponent in the ring, which brought shame to his village, and he was banished and exiled. and his dying wish while in exile was to become the eternal protector of that village. The village's deity, called the Earth Mother, heard Dunbar's plea and granted his wish. So the we start the story off strong around like 1200 AD and bring the story into modern times. And even with issue two, we start off in modern times, seeing Dunbar in action, but we also bring up some of the history of the village because although people think the book is about the character, the book is really about the village, how the village grew into a city, and this city is protected by this mythological eternal protector.
Wow.
So
That,
yeah,
that sounds awesome.
all the stories are really about the village or about the now modern city and Dunbar protecting that city.
Oh, is the city like a now actual real city, or is it? Did you base it off of a real city, or
It's all fictional. I
okay?
because I growing up reading fantasy magazines. Once I moved from like the Western and the war stories, I had a brief period with heroes, but I really got into Conan. I used to collect the Savage Sword of Conan, the black and white magazine, back in the day when Barry Windsor Smith was on it. But
Right.
the just those stories and the settings because it was all fantasy. You know, Hyperborea was not an actual place, but it was a place of imagination and fantasy. And they created this world, and they created this character Conan who lived in this world and his adventures in this world in that setting. So that really was a inspiration. And then as I got older and doing more reading, I really started getting into the works of Charles Saunders and even Milton Davis. Charles Saunders being was called father of Sword and Soul being what I do, uh, fantasy books that are Afrocentric, African based.
Okay.
So, you know, you're not going to see Hercules appear in my book, but you might see, you know, one of the African deities like Shango. So, yeah, that's really the difference there.
All right. And with your Kickstarter, do you have like a catch up tier? Like people can get book one with two?
Yes, yes, there's a tier where you can get the book one and book two because the even though the stories can stand alone, like issue two is not so much the continuation of issue one, but it's another story happening with that character in that city or village,
All right.
and it's its own story.
Are you gonna do like a big universe with this character and
Well,
like other people? I'm trying to think of the exact words to say. I guess like a cinematic Marvel universe. I guess.
yeah, I'm not trying to do a big universe with 20 different characters going on, anything like that. I'm really going to stick with the one character with the one village. Of course, he's going to have a different adversaries, but
Mhm.
everything is going to be contained there in that one city of things that are happening because, like, he is the protector of Africa. He's the protector of this city, of this village. He is the protector of the world. And he's the protector of this city. So, you know, he's not going to be coming over to America to fight Captain America. You know what I mean? Because that's
All
not
right.
that's not his purpose. His purpose isn't to be a world hero or even a hero of Africa. But as I said in his backstory, his dying wish was to be the eternal protector of that village.
All right. And you only write, you don't draw.
Oh no, don't draw. I have artist envy for real. I see so many wonderful artists out there and so much wonderful artwork, and I just get jealous because I can't even make my stick men look good.
I know that's right.
True story, true story. When I took art in school, my drawings were so bad, the teacher said, "Look, just be my assistant. Go in the back and mix the paint."
Damn.
Because I couldn't draw. I couldn't even pretend to draw, but I could mix some paint though. I can put the colors.
All right. Let's see. How many issues do you plan on doing with the Protector?
I actually hadn't set my mind to that. When I first got started, I interviewed this one person in particular, and he was telling me how a lot of creators fall short in what they do because they try to build this big world with all these big characters, and they try to sell all these books before they are actually successful with selling one. And I took that to heart, took that to mind. So this one property that I have, I'm trying to make this property go. And we see from things like Spawn and Savage Dragon, issues can go on for decades if they have the legs to do so. So I'm trying to develop a series that has that kind of staying power where, I don't need a big universe and I don't need 60 books. I can take this one book, make this book the best book it can be, and let it continue for as long as it can continue, as long as people buy it.
All right, I agree with that. Let's see. Oh, is your book in the comic book stores? Like, can people request it at their LLC or not LLC?
Yeah, the
Yeah, their comic book
LCS.
store. I mean.
Yeah, actually, after the Kickstarter campaign, the book will be heading to be solicited through Diamond to go out to the comic book stores. Uh, issue one for the folks that are still interested in picking that up, they can go to, and it hadn't been put on the website yet, but we'll be putting issue one up on the second site publishing.com website, and they'll be able to get the book there.
All right. And what else are you working on? Is there any other books that you're working on that you can talk about?
Well, I'm expecting here in maybe the next month or so, a project I did with an independent creator named Bracy Jones. The title of his book is The Black Assassin. I actually adapted his prose story into a comic book, and the book is nearing completion. They're on the final pages, colors and letters, I believe. So I'm looking for that to come out in the next month. And then, as I mentioned, with Mississippi Zombie and with the Second Sight Publishing Presents, I'm not only putting stories in the books, but I'm actually the collection editor for both books. So I'm always looking for submissions for people to send me stories. Our whole thing with Mississippi Zombie was for this book to be an outlet for independent creators to submit stories and get published. That's why we sought publishing through a company like Caliber with the reputation they have, and we were successful. And Mississippi Zombie is sold in comic book stores now. Mississippi Zombie 2, I think, will be or should be in previews in December, hitting stores in February.
All right.
Second Sight Publishing presents that should be hitting previews, I think, maybe January for release in March. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've read
uh,
Mississippi Zombie 1. That book was awesome.
that book was an unexpected hit because originally when Bradley put that book together, he put it together in his room, like he and the couple of guys that he had work on it. But then he called in Peter Brewer and myself and told us the idea he had of this book really becoming a big vehicle for independent creators. And we joined in. So the book kind of took off on us.
All right. And you said you was taking submissions. Where can people send those?
Uh, they can send the submissions to, if they go to the secondsightpublishing.com website, they'll see where we accept submissions at info@secondsightpublishing.com. And also, my email is mhroberts1965@gmail.com. You can send the submissions to me. The submission should consist of a pitch and 4 or 5 pages of your story. We're only accepting completed stories. For example, for Mississippi Zombie, we're looking for 12-page black and white stories. So, send me a pitch and send me your story. And if we like it, we'll publish it.
All right. You hear that, guys? Send Marcus all your great stories.
Yeah, send them in because we have I think 6, 7 year deal with Caliber to provide this book. So the opportunity is really there for independent comic book creators who are serious to submit their stuff to, get into a book that is actually being published and distributed through a major distributor and out there in front of retailers. Because you always get the guys that talk the talk, but we're looking for the guys that are serious, that's talking the talk and walking the walk.
Mm-hmm. Is it only zombie stories, or can they submit any story that they have?
Well, for the Mississippi Zombie, it has to specifically be a zombie story.
Okay.
But for the Second Sight Publishing Presents, like our first issue was a horror issue. In the future, we'll be doing a sci-fi issue. We'll be doing a Western and war story issue.
Hmm.
We'll be doing a superhero issue because people like superheroes still. So
Right.
when the time comes for those different books to come in, we'll be looking for submissions along those lines.
All right. Well, thank you, Marcus, for coming to talk with us. Is there anything you want to say to the people before we go?
The last thing I would like to say is check out my Kickstarter, the Protector Volume 1 and 2. You love the rewards. You can get signed books from me, signed books from Bradley Golden. Prints, if you like prints, we got prints galore. We're trying to give away. But ultimately, this is a good book, and I think you will enjoy it. So check it out on Kickstarter.
All right. Thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome, man.